Hi, it's Kevin. Welcome to Relationship Ready. Thanks for coming. Please like and subscribe. Today, I want you to become part of the Relationship Ready family. And family is complicated. Friends are complicated. And they complicate our relationships. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how to leave the nest. The little bird leaving the nest from your family, the emotional buttons and the physical buttons of the people who grew you up, as well as your friends, because we move on to friends, and we have to move on from them too sometimes, because they can bring our relationships down or up, depending on your friendships. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about family and friends. We're going to talk about differentiation, and we're going to talk about our self versus other. So what's self versus other? We are made up of everything we have experienced so far. We're made up of everyone in our family who's taught us a lesson, who's role modeled for us, who's tried to raise us up into who we are. And those buttons and those people live inside of us. And as we move forward and differentiate from our family, where we become ourself versus our family, versus others, sometimes we replace that with our friends. As adolescents, as teenagers, we try on our friends, our relationships, our peer groups, our cliques, similar to trying on an outfit and going, this fits me or this doesn't fit me. And as we do that, the things that fit, we internalize and we become part of who we are. Because they're part of who we are already, but it gets validated and then we go, oh, this is who I am. I'm someone who really likes nature, or I'm someone who really likes to be treated like crap. Now, why is that? That's because of our history and our genetics, our nurture and our nature. So what is differentiation? Differentiation is identifying the differences between ourself and where we came from. Our history, our culture, our family, our friends, and ourself. And being able to independently go, this is me, separate than others, because we are interdependent people. We are dependent on others. So we're never fully ourselves, but we're always working on differentiating ourselves and becoming our own person. We do that in stages. As an infant, it's called object relations. The peekaboo game is like, oh, you're still there, parent, guardian, mother, even though you hide behind your fingers and into another room. But you're going to run back and hopefully have some safety. But when we don't have that safety, we attach to other people. And we attach to other things. So we attach to destructive things or constructive things, depending on what is around us. If what's around us is destructive, we get used to destructive. We get as comfortable could be with destructive. And that affects our relationships. And we need to differentiate from that. We differentiate again in adolescence, where we rebel. And we go, oh, I'm not like you. Parents who I grew up with, who I grew up in your home, who was exactly like where I am. And then we start to become someone different and attached to our friends. And then we go, oh, I am like these friends. I'm in a group of friends who just smokes pot all the time. I'm in a sports group of friends. I'm in a group who's like, I don't care about anything. And parts of those become who we are. And parts of them we leave behind as we move through adolescence into adulthood. And if we do move into adulthood and start adulting, then we attach to our closest relationships, our friends, our first loves. And we start to realize, oh, I'm like this, I want this. And then we have to differentiate from them also, but still stay interdependent in a relationship. And that is a very hard thing to do. And that's what relationship success is all about, is staying interdependent in our relationships, where we can identify what is ourselves and what is others, what is our problems and what is others' problems, what are the things we can support and help rise up, and what are the things that bring us down and destroy us. So that when we have friends and we enter a new relationship, they vet our relationship. They're like, are they good enough for you? What's good about them? What's bad about them? I'm going to tell you all about it, or I'm going to tell you all about it non-verbally, and I'm going to treat them poorly, bring them in, separate them, make it difficult for you to be in this relationship. Because change is difficult. And our friends have a hard time being able to see us change. So we need to be able to decide what's more important, those friendships and their true friends and closer levels in our circle of friends of the ones who can support us in new relationships and not take us down and not talk trash. Or are those friends who are like, no, they're actually not talking trash, they're telling the truth. And they may look like they're trying to break down the relationship, but they're actually trying to support us. And the way to tell that is to identify and differentiate ourselves versus others. Are they calling us out on things that we already know are our flaws that we need to do? Or are they calling out the people who we're in relationship with of things that are toxic and not good for us? And maybe we should listen to that. That's how we launch from the bird's nest into the world and start to fly. Because in relationships, history repeats itself. Not just culturally and in other systems, internally too. We look for the things that comfort us as well as we're used to, even if they're destructive in relationships. So if we're in an abusive relationship, we find some other person who's going to abuse us. If we're in a healthy relationship where people rise up and support us, but then we walk all over them, then we find other people to be able to do that until we realize how much is us and how much is others, and then we make choices about that. Our values, our family values, are something that we identify. Whatever the value is. Maybe it's a value to protect. Maybe it's a value to take care of each other. Maybe it's a value to separate and close off and cancel each other in your family. And maybe those are the values that you bring into relationships. And when you find a relationship that fits those values, then is that really you or is that your family? And that's part of differentiating and openly communicating with your partners, with your relationships to figure that out. So what are the techniques to be able to negotiate those things? Communication is essential. Being able to be self-aware and communicate about what is me and what is you. Being able to communicate with both your friends and your new relationship. Oh, what's your intention here? Are you trying to help rise me up and fill me up and build me up and support me as a friend, as a partner, as a new relationship? Or are you trying to tear me down because you're afraid you don't want to lose me, or you're afraid you do want to lose me, so you want to tear me down? And communicating about that. Identifying our family patterns is another skill. What are the things generationally and that you grew up with, that I grew up with, that I'm repeating again? I grew up with competition, so I bring competition into my relationships. That can be healthy or that can be destructive, depending on how intense it gets, whether my partner tolerates and or enjoys competition, or whether it's difficult and destructive for them. And we need to communicate about that because that's a family pattern. So identifying your family patterns and communicating about those also. And identifying your friends is a skill. Who are your real friends? When you go through crisis, you find out who your real closest friends are. But it's okay to have friends that are the hangout friends or the just doing a particular activity of a sport or a dance or an activity that you just do those things with them. But that's where they are unless you bring them in closer and they want to be brought in closer. And if those friends are trying to take down your relationship or trying to build up a relationship, that's where you set your boundaries with those friends. And you're like, I'm going to bring you in if you support me. I'm going to keep you where you're at if you don't support me. And handling conflict. Because when people are trying to build up or tear down relationships, or you're trying to build your own relationship, there's got to be conflict. And it's a skill and a family pattern of how your family deals with conflict, of how you handle it, and whether you manage it, or whether you act it out on other people, or whether you take care of your stuff and express emotions and handle vulnerability and the conflict within it. And that's up to you if you're aware. If it's not up to you, you're going to do whatever you're going to do anyway. And so is your partner, and so is your friends. So what do we talk about today? Leaving the nest as we grow up and being able to differentiate, to separate from our families and from our friends, and how that impacts relationships by making decisions about who are your friends who support you, Who are your partners that support you? And who are the ones to keep at certain levels with boundaries? And you can identify each of those people. The more aware you become, and the more you become relationship ready. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.